Hi, Kristeen. How are you?
I am well. How are you, Sharnell? Uh-oh, did we freeze?
Well, can't complain. This technology is getting me a little crazy.
Yep.
Let's
It's
see.
definitely causing some extra troubles. I says we're live.
That's what mine's is saying. And it stopped. Let's keep doing this and see if
it's working.
Oh, it's working. Okay, so good morning. Everybody. We've had some technical difficulties, some interesting things happening. I think some of my technical difficulties is having 6 children at home and a husband at home, and we're all on the internet, but also everybody around Los Angeles and California and our nation and our world is online and doing everything online. And so I think that causes some good, uh, nice, interesting things to talk about our technology.
Definitely a conversation starter.
Yes, it is. So how many children you have at home, and is your husband at home working as well?
Yes, so my husband is an LAUSD employee and he is home. And we have 4 children ranging in age 13, 8, 2, and 3. So we're pretty busy at home.
Just a little busy. That is great. And I know that you're a marriage and family therapist, and you've been going around the city for the last several weeks and talking to families.
Yes.
And
yes.
In the midst of this COVID, yesterday we were on a call together, and you had on your mask because you were about to
yes.
enter into a new home.
Yes.
And so I know that you are dealing with COVID. So I have a couple of questions for you.
All right.
Wanted to know that what do you say to families? Like my family is 8 of us, and we're all on Zoom meetings with my kids in classrooms. I have 2 in college and 4 in high school, and my husband and I in work. And we're trying to balance being in one. And so what strategies do you give families about being in the same space?
Well, for some of us, we can go into designated areas. Mine happens to be my car, as you can see. My daughter is currently online with her teacher in their bedroom with the door closed. However, that's not always the case. So sometimes if it's possible, we need to schedule different times. So this person is going to be online from this time to this time, or in this space, this room, from this time to this time, and try to work around it that way. This whole thing requires a lot of planning and scheduling and really just knowing where everyone is at the same time. I mean, we don't want to be recording in the middle of a meeting and someone walks by talking about the breakfast that they ate 2 minutes ago. So a lot of it is really strategically planning out where everyone is in the house at a specific time. I mean, if you can imagine, it's kind of hard to get my youngest 2 to understand that we're on camera and we're recording, because when they want to try doggy treats and walk around in their underwear, that's what they do. So making it very clear to the entire family what's going on. I just had a conversation with my little one and told her that mommy's working and I'm on camera and I can talk to her later. So setting clear boundaries is one thing that can help.
And so when you say setting clear boundaries, is that to protect you or to protect the kids? I know that it's about working with the video, but I'm also thinking about the mental side of that, our health side of that. How do you set a boundary? Sometimes that's very hard to do because these are the people you love and spend so much time with.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways of setting boundaries, because they're setting boundaries for yourself and then setting boundaries for other people. Sometimes the most important ones are the ones that we're setting for ourselves. So I know that in order for me to get a certain amount of work done, I have to set a specific boundary where I'm not getting distracted and sidetracked trying to be mom and checking to see if the eggs are burning that they're cooking and running in the other room. So I know that for me, one of my boundaries is I have to remove myself from the situation for a certain amount of time and not worry about what's happening that I think I need to micromanage or control. That's one. The other is, yes, being very clear with other people, because we need people to realize that we too have specific needs. Our children have specific needs. So teaching them, practicing setting boundaries. No, I'm not available right now. Yes, I can talk to you, but at this time. No, mommy can't play puzzles, but I can play puzzles with you later. Or we can count to 10 and then mommy can come back and we can talk about it. Even with our spouses or with our family members, I cannot answer calls between a certain time or text between a certain time, or little things like, I know for me, by a certain time of night, I just stop replying or receiving any messages because I consider that family time. I've been working all day. I've been telling my kids, hold on, wait. Now I dedicate that time. So setting boundaries and being clear about what it is that you need, what you want, and enforcing it. Because sometimes we can say it, but we don't follow through. So we have to practice following through with what we're saying, because it sets good examples for our kids and for our families.
So it's setting up those boundaries. It's telling your kids that, hey, mommy can play with you, or we can sit down and do puzzles at 2 o'clock, or dinner will be for all of us at 6. And so my question is, how do you buffer that? Because you're in the same space. We're safer at home right now. Yeah. So not only is work at home, but family is at home. So what kind of things, especially in this landscape where we can't go to the playground, we can't go to the beach, we can't go hiking anymore. So how do we set that space to not only the boundary, but also the me time, or the time to come down from work before we engage with family?
So some of the things that I've done personally in my house is, one, I'm very visual. So I need to see my things out. So I've made a chart or a schedule or routine that's printed out on the wall, and we all have a basic understanding of what's happening around the same time. Some of us are time scheduled people. Some of us don't do well with time, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But for example, at a certain time each day, the kids go outside to play. And that also gives me a little bit of time to be inside to do whatever that is, or I can join them outside for, change of environment and some exercise, things like that. But the kids know around a certain time every day, that's what we're doing. They also know that when we wake up in the morning, it's brush your teeth, wash your face, because many of us are on camera. We don't need to be in our pajamas, and be prepared. So getting our school materials ready or whatever, making sure we have breakfast, checking in with each other, and then our day starts. So we follow a specific routine. This is not all the time. I think routines are very healthy and are needed, but we also need a break from routines. And that's a lot of what's happening right now. Our world is having a really hard time with switching this routine, where we get up, we pick up the kids to take them to school. We're rushing to work. We're trying to get a lunch break in. We're in this specific routine, and now everything's been taken from under our feet. So finding a good balance between what's working, why is it working, and practicing that, and then coming back to reevaluate, is it still working for me? But sometimes putting these things visually on a piece of paper, writing it down, making a chart for the little kids to see, using picture visuals and things like that can help us move throughout our day, and setting up certain times and spaces in our day to do things.
You said something that was very important, and I apologize for that phone ringing. I guess I didn't unplug my phone. But picture visuals. I know I have high schoolers in college, so we have it written out and it is color coded. I found a nice system at on Facebook, believe it or not, that gave a nice schedule for the day. But even doing it for younger students who might not be able to read detailed words, being able to put pictures together so that they know what comes next. And so what is in the daytime. And I like that very much. One of the things that's happening, and I'm sure having a husband who works at LA Unified, you've heard that Tony Thurmond sent a letter to superintendents last night or yesterday, asking districts to prepare for prepare so that they're prepared in case school is extended through the
Right.
rest of the school year, that we're at home, I should say, that we don't return back to school. The decision hasn't been made whether or not that will happen for California schools, but they wanted to make sure that we're prepared with digital learning in case that happens. And so now everybody has a lot of anxiety. Kids are starting to hear it. My high schoolers came to me with that letter on their
Yes.
phones, like, did you hear this, Mom? So what is your suggestions about talking to kids and talking to each other about COVID-19 and being in the place that we are, we're safer at home?
So there's a couple of things. We need to remember who our audience is. The same conversation I'll have with my 3-year-old about not going to school today and seeing her teacher is not exactly the same conversation I'll have with my 8th grader or my 7th grader, actually. So making sure that we're speaking age appropriate language to them and that we're breaking it down in ways that they can understand. So that's one. The other thing is my first thing that I always say is validate. We need to validate, give each other the space to be able to have a conversation, but we have to start with ourselves, because a lot of times us as parents, we're so busy containing and holding off that we don't give ourselves a chance to feel. So we need to check in each morning or before we go to bed at night, whatever it is, to say, what am I feeling about these changes going on? Am I feeling any anxiety, any extra pressures? What's going on? Because our kids will pick up on that. And then having the time and the space, everybody come in. Sounds like we have some new news going on that the schools are going to be extended. Have you find out what your kids have heard, and if it's accurate information, because there's lots of things going on out there that's not accurate. Is it accurate information? And then check in. So what are you feeling about that? What do you think about that? And then eliciting their feedback, because sometimes as parents we become so much more of dictators. This is what's happening, that we don't check in and say, hey, what do you think is a good idea to help us feel better about not seeing our friends for the next couple of weeks? Or what do you think is a good idea to add to our little routine to make sure we're not missing any adequate academics? Things like that. But we definitely need to do family check-ins. We definitely need to check in with ourselves. We definitely need to have the conversations with our kids and explain to them what's going on their level that they can understand. But most importantly, although we're all feeling anxiety and worried, how we respond is how our children respond. What we do, how we practice those skills is the same way they will. And it doesn't mean that we're going to be calm all the time, but we need to show them how we can go from up here to back down here. What are our strategies? What do we do? Do we do deep breathing? Do we just turn everything off and have a dance party? What do we do to get ourselves to come back to our medium, whatever our medium is?
Okay. Yes, I had, thank you for that, because it's interesting. I had one of my children come to me and said, Mom, this is overwhelming. I really need to talk about my mental health. And so right then I knew, sit down, talk to her in a quiet space and ask her, how did she feel? And so we had a great conversation. And I've had that a couple of times with my children where they're like, hey, Mom. And so I've stopped doing what I'm doing and actually spoken to them on their level. And so my husband and I have been doing that as well. And that reminds me, I need to do that more with my husband.
Yeah, we can't forget about our spouses and our partners too, because we're in this together. But so many times we're operating together like this. This one's handling this one's handling it. We have to come back in together and check in with each other from time to time.
That is true. And one of the questions that has came up from the parents that we work with is that what do you do when your child is having nightmares, or the parent is having nightmares or anxiety? You talked a little bit about connecting with one another, but is there some other things that we should be doing to lower our anxiety during this time?
So a lot of times what's happening in our sleep are things that are manifesting from what's happening when we're awake. There's some basic things that pertain to just sleep and not exactly the emotional part of it. So creating a sleep or a bedtime routine is often helpful for any type of thing that's manifesting. And what do I mean by that? So let's say the kid's bedtime is 8:30. So prior to 8:30, we start a whole routine. Let's say the routine starts at 7:30. We turn off screens 30 minutes prior to bedtime, because it has been proven that the things that are emitted from screens affect our natural sleep cycles. Another thing is, let's say we dwindle down our activity, because many of us are still running pretty heavily by the middle of the night, trying to get everything taken care of. So
Yes,
our bodies are still active.
me.
Me too. When our bodies are active, our minds are active. So in order to
Okay.
get our bodies to calm down, we have to get our minds to calm down as well. So that means slowing down, walking slower. I know I run through my house most of the time. My husband walks, and I'm looking at him like, what? Slow down, move
Okay.
slower, talk slower. Do things that are a little bit more relaxing toward the end of the day. So reading a book, or just laying down for a few minutes before we go to sleep. Giving our kids that little bit of space, a tuck-in routine, whether it's a little song and a story and a prayer, but something that their body is aware that, okay, we're calming down. This is what we do every day. We are calming down. Brain and body is calming together. There's meditation videos and apps out there that are very helpful for some people. I know my youngest often will ask us to light our candles and our incense as she's going to sleep, and we'll
Ah,
turn on music without words. So there's an
okay.
Indian drumming, there's jazz, there's all type of lower level, lower frequency sound waves that we can get into. That kind of helps sets us up for sleep. As far as the emotional part, one is, make sure we are attending to our emotional and mental health, whether that's seeking someone out
Mhm.
professionally, whether that's making time to speak with a friend, whether that's having a little bit of self-care time. Some of it, for example, with the nightmares, I call it calling the elephant out of the room. So when a little kid is saying, oh no, mommy, there's a monster in my closet, I say, okay, let's go into the closet. And at first it's like,
Okay.
what? I'm not going in there with that monster. Let's go in there with the closet. Let's call the monster a name. If his name is Bubba, Bubba, I'm not afraid of you. Even if I am afraid, tell Bubba in your loudest, strongest voice, I'm not afraid of you. I see you. I know what you look like. You look like this big hairy thing with green eyes and slimy mouth. Name it. Because when we
Okay.
name it, it becomes less threatening to us. So those things that, let's go back to COVID. Let's name it. What's happening with me with COVID? I feel totally out of control, because I don't know if my family's going to get sick, or my family has become sick, or I know people who have died, and I'm worried that I'm next. I'm anxious because I don't know if my family's going to be able to maintain financially. We're running out of food. There's no toilet paper. Naming these things, name it to tame it,
Okay.
call out that monster, say what it is. And sometimes calling the monster, talking about the elephant in the room, it makes the elephant smaller, and it doesn't attack us as much in our sleep or in our daytime.
I love that. I love calling out the monsters. I know that you spoke about whether speaking to professionals if we were feeling anxiety and it was getting to depression or getting very bad, even if we don't think it's bad, we should be talking to a professional or to our friends or to someone.
Mhm,
I know that the state of California now has a line for people to call
mhm.
for mental health care, and there's also a national line. And a lot of the information that parents and families can use, we do post that on our social media accounts at Speak
Mhm.
Up, as well as on our website at speakupparents.org. And so we do give that information out to people. It's been an interesting ride these last couple of weeks. I can't believe we're
Definitely,
at 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks of doing this at
definitely.
home. One of the things that I really enjoy is having time with my family for dinner. Dinner time is a little bit different
Yes.
now because usually we're doing a 2-hour commute. And so
Yes. Mhm.
we're eating on the run. And so
Mhm.
now we're using dinner time for us is almost an hour and we're able to talk. And now over 3 weeks, we've been melding as a family together.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
so taking some of your suggestions just at hand, but I'm going to start walking a little slower, talking a little slower so
Yes.
I can
Yes.
de-stress and possibly stop doing Zoom calls for 12 hours a day. That would
Yes. That would help me too.
that would help with that. I have one last question for you. Is there any one thing, one word, or one thing you want to make sure that people know about spending time with your families during this COVID time and during this time of distant learning?
Yes, so many times things are blessings in disguise. And yes, there's a crisis going on. Yes, there are so many uncertainties happening and our anxiety levels are going high. But there's also many, many, many beautiful things that's happening right now that we probably wouldn't have noticed or taken the time out to do if this hadn't happened. You mentioned now being able to sit down at a table with your family, whereas you're scarfing fries down on the way home originally. Now I'm able to, be with my children for nap time and get them all nestled in when normally that's not what's happening. There's little things. Families are having virtual parties where they get to see each other, to see how they're doing. People are reaching out via phone call. So there's so many beautiful things that's happening, and we really, really, really need to focus on those things. When we get overcrowded and worried and doubtful and stressed, we need to focus on what's working, focus on what's amazing and what's beautiful. I don't know about you, but I noticed that the skies have been beautiful in LA
Oh my
since
goodness.
this has happened. So I step outside regularly and I just look at feel the sunlight, look at the sky, and think about all the things that are currently working, because our internet's not working, the toilet paper is gone, there's no more Lysol, all these, we can go on and on and on about what's not working. And the more we do that, the further we dig ourselves into that this is crazy world. But the more we talk about what's positive, the more we pay attention to the little bitty small things and fully enjoy them, even in how hectic it may be, fully enjoy them. We pull ourselves up out of that a little bit by little by little, and then our whole disposition changes. So if I can leave anything, it's to find the positives that's happening right now, find what's working, and focus on that at least 3 times a day.
Oh, thank you. That's great. I'm going to make sure I keep telling myself I'm going to do a gratitude journal
Yes.
during this time. And so that is something that I'm going to do when we get off this call, start writing my gratitude. I'm very grateful for you speaking to me
Thank
this
you.
morning, even though it took us a couple of hours to get our technology to work because everybody's on the internet. And you
Mhm.
reminded me that my husband's family, which is huge, is having a family Zoom time tonight. So I got to
Yes.
get that. And we get to connect all across the country.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking outside, as you said, LA is not you can see from Catalina to the mountains. It's wonderful
Yes.
just stepping out of your
Mhm.
home. So thank
Yes.
you for that. And I'll take a moment and enjoy the little things. And so
The
thank you
little,
for your time. Thank you for taking away from your family. And I'm sure I'll talk to you soon. And maybe we can have another one of these in the coming soon, in the next week or two
yes.
or so, and talk about how we're coping again as it's going into almost a month and a half. You
Right.
take care and you
Well,
have a
thank
great
you. It's
day.
been a
Enjoy the
pleasure.
sunshine. Take
You
care.
too. Thank you.